Thinking of moving into accounting software? Well, this vid's for you. As a business accountant, my team and I spend all day long helping business owners on their journey, and a common question is all around, do I need accounting software? We've done another video on that, but this particular one was very specific. It was from a viewer and they wanted to know about the fact they were in Spreadsheets now, thinking of making the move to maybe Xero or QuickBooks or one of these apps, and had a few questions, and I thought actually it's a really good time to revisit this, particularly as we've got the Making Tax Digital for Income Tax coming from April 24. For those of you that earn more than £10,000 from your property and your self-employed income combined, you can have some massive changes, and this is really, really relevant. So let's get into it. But before we do, if you enjoy these type of videos, make sure to click the subscribe button and the bell below so you get notified whenever we release more videos just like this one. So it's worth revisiting very briefly. Do you need to be in accounting software? For sole traders, I would say no, but yes. From April 24, it's highly likely you're going to have to do something digitally to transmit to the revenue every quarter your figures, which is what's going to happen. There's other videos on this, so go check out Making Tax Digital on that. But the basis of it is you're going to have to think about doing this soon, and now's a good time to get used to it. Now, there's lots of different types of software out there, and in this video I'm mainly going to talk to you about Xero and QuickBooks because they're the kind of two market leaders. There's a very strong response coming from Sage. You might have seen things like there's other kind of wannabe ones, I guess, that are doing quite well. You've got Pandle, you've got a few other things behind the scenes, but there's a lot of like incomplete versions. And what I mean by that is in an entire accounting package, you'll normally have the ability to kind of do invoicing, your bank feed comes in so you can categorize your expenses. But the products vary depending on their use. So you might have one that just records income and expenditure, like as it happens, and that's fine if you're doing that kind of work. But for most accounts, you actually want to be able to put like a bill on that's not due yet and things like that. And a lot of the products at the lower end of the market don't do it. They just kind of record what's happened rather than necessarily what's going to happen. So for most businesses who like receive invoices, they might have some time to pay. And a lot of the lower end apps won't register that. There's nowhere to put that, if you like. It's called what's known as like an accounts payable. And even QuickBooks and Xero both have a version. One's called like the QuickBooks Self-Employed Sole Trader version of their app, and Xero have just released something called Xero Go, which is very similar. And it records, like if you're a taxi driver, it's brilliant, for example, because you're just going to, your fees are paid to you there and then, so you're going to record those, and your expenses are generally paid there and then. So it's pretty good for that. But if you're more of a business, like you're a marketing consultant, and you've got bills where you haven't got to pay them for a time, or you've invoiced clients who haven't paid you, it's not really going to fit. So you've got to consider the needs of your business as to which type of accounting software is going to be good for you. But both Xero and QuickBooks have a bit of a range, and there are some other people that do it. As I say, Sage is out there. There's Freeagent out there. If you've got a NatWest bank account, that can be pretty efficient because a lot of the time they're kind of giveaway subscriptions with business accounts and things like that. But for me, especially if you've got sort of desires to grow, QuickBooks and Xero are really good because so many people build plugins for it. I was talking to a local village hall the other day, oddly enough, and they're looking at a new booking system. And the booking system's only been around for 6 months, but the first thing that the providers, software developers have done is build an integration with Xero and QuickBooks, which is brilliant for them because then they can look at digitalising the whole function. So have a look and just think about which you want. And there'll be more videos coming on the software because it's even more relevant now than ever because so many people are going to be re-looking at it. But just know that, yeah, there's different versions. So, and actually some of the viewer questions dig into this version issue a little bit more. So the first question was, does it track my expenses? Well, yes, at primary level, all of them do it. And as I said, there's a difference because some of them will have different terminology. They might use expense, some might use bill, but ultimately they all capture it. Now, all of the apps, I say all of the apps, the two main ones, Xero and QuickBooks, both have an optional thing where you can snap a receipt and they'll read the receipt. And how they read it varies depending on the version and depending on the provider. So some of them will actually strip some of the information out, like dates and suppliers. Some won't do anything and you'll manually have to type them in, but both of them will capture that information. So know that, and that's even in their base versions, that functionality exists. So they capture that and you can categorize them, which is great. The other thing that is available outside of the actual receipts that are in the app, so if you have like one of the kind of the more meaty versions of Xero or QuickBooks, then you could have Dext, which used to be called Receipt Bank, and that plugs into the two of them. And that does have really good technology for reading your receipts and things like that. And it's got some other features, but that might be worth investigating as well. As an accountancy practice, we're big Dext fans. We use it all the time. And that's how we gather a lot of data from our clients from an individual point of view. And from a processing point of view, it saves a lot of time. And obviously, that therefore reduces the cost for our clients as well. So yeah, Dext is an option, and there's also auto entry. It's another one that works in a similar fashion. So, but they do have nowadays, they do have inbuilt apps that will at least get the photo into the software. They all have the option to kind of bring a bank feed in, so then you can connect your bank up. So it doesn't like pay bills or anything, but all your transactions come in. And I know, so take QuickBooks Self-Employed, you can even mark it personal and it just kind of forgets about it, you know. So that's quite unique to that app. The rest of it, you would point it to something like owner's drawings if you're a sole trader, something like that. So, but they all have those options to bring your bank feed in, and that is so much of a time saver. Can't tell you how revolutionary that was for the accounting industry when those apps started to exist. And now we've got open banking, it all works quite nicely. So you're going to be able to record your expenses for sure. You're also then going to be able to invoice, and you're going to have customizable templates. So all of them let you add a logo. Now, depending on the version, depends on how customizable it is. So if you've got like a Xero, you can actually download like a document, fully customize it and move it around with sort of tags, re-upload it, and quite substantially change the style. QuickBooks, the essential version, which is kind of the main one we'd normally recommend for sort of any business of any real kind of substance, that there has different templates you can use to change the invoicing. The self-employed versions and Xero Go, they're quite limited, but you're still able to get your logo on there and things like that. So funny enough, I received an invoice in our business the other day from somebody clearly using QuickBooks Self-Employed, and it looks fine, you know, it's a little template, you just got to add a logo to it to kind of personalize it a little bit more. But if you wanted more than that, you're going to want slightly bigger versions. But there's so many studies that have shown the power of invoicing promptly, so being able to email that invoice straight away. So especially if you're like a job-in type business where you go out to someone's house, do a job, being able to go to the van or your car and literally bang, invoice away, it helps you get paid a lot quicker. And you can also, for a lot of these apps, you can connect payment services like Zettle, PayPal, Go Cardless, and that will help you get paid quicker as well. It's a big problem in the small business world, partially solved by having those kind of connections and making life easier, taking the friction away to getting paid. So that's quite important. So you'll be able to invoice and you'll be able to use your expenses. Again, depending on the version of the apps, some of them, so Xero Go, for example, the sole trader one, as we speak, is only available on Apple. It's literally only been released a month. And if you want the invoice functionality to actually send invoices, it's going to cost you £4 or £5 a month. But the QuickBooks Self-Employed costs you that anyway, but has that functionality. So they're all similar ideas. Just go check them out and see what you fancy. But again, as I say, I would only use those couple of products, the real low end stuff, if you're going to continue to do that. Like if you're never going to be VAT registered and you're very cash based, and I don't necessarily mean cash as in physical cash, I mean you get paid for your stuff there and then, and you pay for your expenses there and then there can be some quite good uses for that. And if you've never been in digital, that's quite a good way. Otherwise I would use one of the other products. And the reason for that is one of the viewer questions was, is it easy to just move up the ranks of software as we go? And the answer to that is yes, unless you're on those two base products, then it's a bit more difficult. QuickBooks Self-Employed, for example, there's no current way to kind of migrate that data into the next, the more full version of the product. So it's very much designed for that world. Xero, we get to see with theirs, it's so new. There's a chance it could be, because I know in the back end it actually looks like a normal kind of Xero thing, but for now, just know that particularly with the QuickBooks product, it's not actually possible. So if you know you're going to be VAT registered or you've got aspirations of doing it, I would take the hit. They're not particularly painful in terms of the subscription prices anyway, and have the main versions. And the main versions I would normally recommend for most businesses, like 90% of businesses are going to be a fit for Essential QuickBooks, Standard Xero. So one of the things people often worry about as well is there support out there for it? So there's a lot of video guides for both sets of software. There's a lot of YouTube content where you can go and search how to do certain things, and people that provide tuition. There's obviously paid tuition you can get. I don't know, like our bookkeeping team do it. There's all these ways of getting actual help, but support if you've got a problem with a product, again, changes per provider, but it all exists. So Xero have an email only support, but it's quite good, and they've got a good knowledge bank. But sometimes if you want to talk to someone, QuickBooks has people you can actually talk to. So again, swings and roundabouts, lots of different pros and cons depending on the software provider, but support is there. I suppose one of the key things to bear in mind is whichever software you choose, there's going to be a little bit of time for you to learn it and do that bit of research, maybe seek support if you need it. But once you've learned how to use it, I think it really does start to streamline your process. And honestly, the amount of people in the small business world, business owners we talk to who have never been digital, and like let's say we put them on digital and we start telling our bookkeeping department, tell them that some of their clients haven't paid them, and they're like, how do you know that? And we're like, because we do your bookkeeping really well, and the software tells us that that's the case because we've matched up all the payments you got and this is what's left, you know. And the amount of payments that go unpaid because people don't chase them, they don't know they're not paid. And that's where what I call the more meaty versions then of QuickBooks or Xero really help, because they show you what you're actually still outstanding. So it's a really big benefit to having this kind of software. And then one of the interesting things that's been advertised a lot, and with Making Tax Digital is going to be an even bigger piece, is what the particular viewer asked in their questions was, is it going to work out my tax bill for me? Well, actually, for self-employed people, the softwares do have a bit of a pop at working that out. QuickBooks Self-Employed particularly has been trying to do that and trying to pre-populate almost a tax return type of figures for you to really help you do that. And with the Making Tax Digital going live, it's definitely going to do it, because what it does is it actually sends the data to revenue and receives a tax bill back. So that's part of the benefits of this new Making Tax Digital as the revenue see it, is they want to give you a more live figure. Now, from our end, that live figure is absolutely fraught with errors because of various different adjustments that could be made at the year end and the nature of your business and all this kind of stuff, but it is at least going to give you some data. So the answer to that is, to a degree, yes, it will work out your tax bill. It's not magically going to do your tax return for you though. Currently that's still going to be there. And when we hit Making Tax Digital, it's going to do the submissions that you need, but you're still going to have this electronic end of period statement and like a final declaration thing you've got to do when we go to the electronic place. But where we are now, you're still going to have to do your tax return. It's just this is going to make your life far, far easier with having the figures that you need to put in the tax return. So in summary, should you do it? Well, yes, go back to what I said at the beginning. I think everybody right now should be looking at digital. If your affairs are super, super straightforward, and I would think of if you were going to go into like the sole trader end of the apps, so your Xero Go, your QuickBooks Sole Trader, I'd be looking at, say, home stylists, hairdressers, taxi drivers, those kind of things, where it's almost instant, and because the apps are amazingly easy. You just record your income, record your expenses, that's it. But if you're doing anything more than that, if you're a freelance marketing consultant, I wouldn't have you on one of those products. I would have you on a QuickBooks Essential or a Xero Standard, like the sort of main editions, and they'll also be able to support you as you grow. So if you do reach the point where it's either beneficial to be, or you just turn over so much money you're going to be VAT registered, it's all possible. You don't need to do anything. You just need to enable it in the software and make those changes there. You don't need to worry about, is this the right thing for me? So, and those additions plug into everything in a wider sense as well. So yeah, definitely the two to do. And if you did need any further detail on cloud, accounting software, all the rest of it, make sure you check out the other videos on the channel. There's plenty of them there. And if you did want to buy a subscription to the main two editions of Xero or QuickBooks that I already mentioned, then you can actually do so under retail in the description below. And hopefully that answers the question. If you've got any questions like this viewer did, make sure to drop it in the comments below, and we'll see if we can get a video out for you if it's relevant to the wider audience. See you on the next one.